You're All So Glorious, Chapter 2, uh, Part 9. Um, the content warning. Medical horror, body horror, horrible, horrible things, and also grief. Uh, full content warnings, as always, in the description in the link. She nearly misses Phantom's room. Only rote muscle memory allows her to find it. It's been painted over. The black is gone, replaced with white. White. Lace ignores her shaking hands and pushes against the door. It's locked. With shaking hands, she reaches to pull a pin from her hair, only to find none within her grasp. She grits her teeth. You should always keep one on you. Always. What if you need to break in somewhere? What if you need to break out? And runs back to her room to retrieve a bobby pin. She prepares it and takes a few deep breaths, trying to gulp her emotions down and bottle them close to her heart. She clicks the pins with her tool, ignoring the chips in the door from where the two had done this countless times before, and finds the weakness in the lock as easily as she had the last time she'd done this. Inside, the room is entirely normal. It's the same as any other room in the manor, as if Phantom had never been here in the first place. There's no strange art projects of gossamer women and polluting machines. The paint Phantom had flung all around, and the holes they'd slam in the walls had been filled and covered. Eggshell, cream, magnolia, bone. Not even the vaguest scent of Phantom's cologne clings to the air. Every ephemeral strand has vanished. The strings holding Phantom up had been cut, and Phantom had fallen through a trap door. Lace cannot find the fissures to figure out the trick. Phantom had taken it all, and like the name, vanished into the air. She ruffles through all the bedside drawers, slamming them open and closed without regard. Nothing. Nothing. Not even a molecule of dust, not even a spider's web. Not a hint of chipped paint, not an atom out of place. Even when Lace drops to her knees and pries open the loose tile Phantom had kept their favorite items within, there is nothing there but a black expanse. No parcelled journals with stickers of the world, Brazil and China and England and the USA and Egypt and every country between. No shattered pottery pieces and no stitched bug. Where Phantom once was, there is simply nothing. Less than the fact that Phantom isn't coming back. Phantom has been erased, has erased themselves, smoothed over as easily as a smear of polish. It's also white. Nothing was left behind, except Lace. She runs her hand under the bed. The pad of her finger catches something sharp, pulling against her skin like a blade. Lace was quick to wrap her hand around it. It's Phantom's pin, the one they wore in their ear with the fake jewels. It's worth less than nothing. But Phantom had never taken it off. Perhaps that means something. Maybe it means nothing. Lace clutches it so hard it draws blood. She holds it close. She closes her eyes. She doesn't want to see it. She doesn't want to know. She's 11, but she's not a fool entire. She doesn't want to acknowledge it. With heavy feet, she treads back to her own room, having no desire to stay within the impersonal guest room. Phantom had been a mere guest. Lace had gotten attached to someone who was always going to leave. Her mother's children amount to little more than passers-by. Here 1 second, gone the next. Lace is a link on a long chain. It rattles, but it does not attract attention. The chain links are recycled. Ethical. The process of adoption is a net positive. People find they have an easier time in their ignorance, and they find it easier to let these children slip between the cracks than go through the long, arduous process of suing a woman whose wealth will likely ensure they won't succeed. Silk Knitter is a notable philanthropist. What's the sacrifice of a few unwanted children so that she keeps donating to the orchestra in Paris? With a girl like Lace in the face of boundless monetary freedom. Lace feels this starkly around her heart. She knows she will truly be one of her mother's children, for better or for worse, as of tomorrow. She'd been faking it before. acting out an unexpected character who possessed a personality Lace was unfamiliar with. Phantom had talked of heart surgery. They'd made it sound like this was the end-all be-all of mother's children. For better or for worse, Lace would be changed. There is nowhere for her to go. There is nothing anyone is going to do against a woman as wealthy as her mother, a moral, charity-oriented woman who adopts orphans and spares them their misery. If no one had questioned the chain of orphans whose light had been dimmed, what about Lace was so fundamentally different as to make a single soul start to care? Neither could Lace run away, much for the same reasons as Phantom. She had little affinity for the streets. She would not make it within them. She does not remember much of her time as an orphan before she'd met her mother, but she remembers that hunger was an unpleasant feeling. She remembers this and knows that the street would not treat a girl as young as herself well at all. Perhaps if she stayed, as Phantom had, as every one of her chained siblings had, Lace could manage a decadent life before she herself is inevitably dismissed. Phantom had been freed in the end. It is likely that Lace would be as well, and it would hurt forever, but Lace would keep it all close and live and die this way. Perhaps Phantom would return from the institution one day. She curls up in her own bed tight, Phantom's earring pin close by. Lace wraps herself in blankets, as if she is scared of the dark, as if burying herself in the white sheets would provide her an impenetrable camouflage, bypassed by even the most canny predators. If she wraps herself in enough white, perhaps her mother will eventually forget she was even here at all. Noon comes the next day. Despite her ardent, silent pleas, a servant retrieves Lace to make the drive to the hospital. Lace follows behind, her eyes glazed as though she is walking to her death. Heart surgery. Phantom had warned her, but what use is a warning if there is no way to avoid the given fate? She walks to the car like a convicted prisoner, eyes heavy and heart fluttering like a butterfly inside her chest. Perhaps it senses that it's about to be taken, stolen. It's about to be altered, some Frankenstein experiment, each stitch a notch of evidence. The nurses are the same as they always are, the two women who chat about their husbands and children while they hook Lace's veins up to a drip. Lace is fairly sure at this point that neither are anesthesiologists. Simultaneously, she's fairly sure there should be an anesthesiologist on hand to monitor the progress made. As always, Lace says no word to them. They scare her, as harmless as they come across. Lace has never forgotten how quickly the one nurse's face changed when Lace had refused to come out of the car that one particular day, years and years ago, when Lace had first been brought to France. "Count to 50, a woman says dispassionately in Lace's direction. "Or as high as you can go. You'll be out before you reach 100. She smiles. Her lipstick is smeared, a red mark right above her upper mouth. The ceiling spins. It disappears. It comes back. At some point, Lace swears she wakes up because she looks down from where she seems to be hovering, somewhere by the ceiling, and there's the doctor, a real beating heart in his hands, a thing, a slimy, glittering thing that drips blood to the floor. On a sanitized white metal plate is a white mimicry of a heart, accurate down to the smallest arteries and veins, anterior, posterior. It looks like it's made of fabric, of the lightest gauze and most decadent silk. The doctor lifts it, bloody gloves staining it scarlet. When he puts it in her chest, it doesn't beat like a regular heart. It expands itself, the silk attaching to Lace's leftover arteries and veins like the grasping tentacles of an octopus, the entreating mouth of a leech, sending ivory shooting through her body. It kills her skin. It spins itself straight into her, simply remaking every bit that resists. Lace watches this for a moment, head vacant. She simply cannot comprehend this. Make sure to keep her under until her skin's gone back to normal, the doctor says. Then Lace wakes up, the nightmare having rendered her terrified. There's plastic in her mouth and in her nose. She feels as though she must relearn to breathe. She looks down. Her skin is normal, dark and smooth as always. There's a doctor peering over her, the same one as always. She's sick of doctors and their mystical white cloaks. She's never felt well around them. She's only ever felt worse. Her mother is sitting cross-legged in a nearby chair, her laptop balanced on her legs. Her gaze cuts to Lace after she awakes. Since when Lace had arrived in France, this is the first time her mother had deigned to come to her, one of her surgeries. How do you feel? The doctor says, clipboard in hand. He flips through it, glancing at Lace with half-lit eyes and wire-rimmed glasses. My chest hurts, Lace says. My head hurts. Mm-hmm, the doctor says. That's fairly normal. No burning pains, no nausea, headaches, anything like that? Nausea, Lace says roughly, but the doctor doesn't seem to care much. What about, the doctor takes another glance at his clipboard. Shredding feeling like perhaps your skin has become individualized, like perhaps string or yarn. Lace stares at him. She blinks a few times, her eyes crusty. Out of the corner of her eye, she notes that her mother is watching the two of them very carefully. I have a headache, Lace says. I'll assume that's a no, the doctor says, marking it off on his clipboard. He then peers over Lace and at her mother, who is as blank as always. Do you have a moment? To Lace, excuse us a second. Here's a piece of candy. Eat while your mother and I chat, yes? Lace stares at the white wrapped candy, at the small orange mascot at the front, before pulling her eyes away between the doctor and her mother. Lace's mother stands, her pale skirt falling just below her knees, pantyhose covering the rest of her leg. She follows the doctor out of the room, not once looking at Lace. Lace feels miserable. She closes her eyes, drifting in and out. Her chest hurts badly, more than she would have expected. Is she on morphine or something similar? Everything sure feels stark. The door clicks closed, but it only muffles the voices of her mother and the doctor, which drift through regardless of the barrier. That's a good sign, the doctor says, barely comprehensible through the pounding in Lace's head. She might be it. She might be successful. I'm sure you hope that, her mother replies. But the truth is, she's likely to fail all the rest. That bird-boned girl. She possesses not an ounce of strength nor will of soul. And yet she remains put together without much of your influence. She remains whole. The others start to shred immediately. Then perhaps that is where I've been failing. I've been picking children with far too much soul. Promise. I did theorize that the strength of their soul would naturally fight back against the true intrusion of a silken heart. We'll see the results of your conclusion then, Lace's mother says. She's still alive, isn't she? And we've got plenty of time. Lace blinks at the ceiling, mouth full of cotton. She could open it, and it would all spill out over her chest, piles falling to the floor and filling her bed and weighing her down into the hospital bed. No one would even notice it. It's white, like everything else. Her head hurts. Lace is sent home in a wheelchair. Phantom isn't waiting for her. The house is still pristinely white. She thinks to wheel herself to Phantom's room, but looks up the stairs and feels hopeless. Her own room has temporarily been moved to the bottom floor for convenience, though moved is a strong word. The only thing that moved was Lace's wardrobe and jewelry, all migrated downstairs to her new room. Not all of her things have been migrated downstairs either. Some of her jewelry, the items Phantom had made for her, are missing from the little wooden box where she'd kept them. The children's fantasy books are gone. A journal of dried flowers and leaves is nowhere to be found. No matter how Lace tears up the room, she cannot help but come to the final conclusion that these things have vanished on purpose, methodically and specifically. After all, this isn't the first time her things have gone missing. Maybe they too had ended up at the mental institution, right alongside Phantom. She thinks vaguely to ask a servant where they'd gone, but when she'd managed to find one, the man had only snorted and dismissed Lace, turning her wheelchair around and walking away. Another servant had told her to try the rubbish bin, so they're gone. Lace had placed Phantom's paperclip earring in her coat pocket for luck during her surgery, and is only with great luck that it remains. It is the last thing she has of her sibling now. Officially, and with great finality, there will come nothing else. What do you do when something's over? Lace finds she is not able to answer. No one has come to retrieve her for lessons, not for school, not for ballet, and though she had once been jealous of Phantom's deceptional freedom, Lace finds worry within herself that her use had similarly been evaluated and found wanting. It is more a naive time in her life that she'd longed to be Phantom. As she'd grown older, she'd slowly began to realize that Phantom's life was merely an illusion of altruism and borrowed time. Lace's mother remains around. Lace sees her at breakfast every morning and sometimes dinner. The woman appears simultaneously distracted by everything that is not Lace, and yet still razor-focused on her daughter. Every morning she asks a set of questions about strange symptoms that Lace is not experiencing. The sensation of shredding skin, extreme exhaustion, a feeling like her identity is escaping her body. Lace answers each with a negative, which pleases her mother. But it does not retain the woman's attention for long, and she often dismisses Lace flippantly, with no further words. Perhaps Lace has been well trained at this point, but as opposed to her rebellious youth, instead of running around in the green grass, she spends much of this given free time studying the parts of the books Widow had left off with her. She does not like this unlimited private time. Never mind that she would have killed for it only a few months earlier. It feels uncaring, and Lace chews off every one of her fingernails with the stress of what could happen to her in the future. It also feels lonely. No one accompanies her through anything. So she studies, obediently scribbling down endless math equations and reading books she thinks Widow might have assigned if she were here. She does as many ballet scratches as can be accessible within a wheelchair, but neither of her tutors make another appearance, as if they'd vanished into thin air. Unlike with Phantom, Lace does not care for either of them, but their disappearance makes her nervous, both the suddenness of it and the jarring effect it has on Lace's routine. Of all times, this one in particular is not opportune for Lace to be experiencing such drastic and terrible change. Such an apathetic and unloving one at that. Separately, her head hurts very badly, as if it is seizing in on itself. Her headaches have become chronic. Her bones hurt like a drill had burned holes on every square inch, and Lace feels as though she must eat several times as much food to regain even the slightest bit of energy. It's far more than she should be consuming, especially for a ballerina, but she cannot help herself. She feels as though she may starve to death without it. But her mother also seems to be pleased by Lace's increased appetite, rather than angry over the potential that Lace might not be a sufficient ballerina. Suddenly, instead of the usual fish or chicken that may grace her plate, heavily restricted already by her ballet instructor, Lace finds that there are now constantly red meats. I'm leaving that in. Beef and pork and venison and goat, all finely seared with a pinkish interior, sometimes on the bone, sometimes not. Never any sauce, just the meat itself, stark and plain for lunch and dinner. It all tastes the same. Lace hasn't had these sorts of meats since long before she'd been adopted by her mother, but she can't help but think that she remembers at least pork and goat tasting differently. She knows because she had liked goat and not pork, had refused to eat pork for anything, and she'd been spoiled and indulged. But now they taste the same. For lack of better explanation, Lace chalks it up to a flighty childhood memory and changing taste buds, and she eats all the meat on her plate. Over time, her intense hunger settles down, except on rare occasion. Her headaches reduce themselves, and her bones stop aching. Her heart stops hurting, but it never quite feels like itself again. The days grow boring, monotonous. Sometimes Lace goes outside. It's hot, like the weight of bricks on her spine, making even her bones sweat. It burns the tip of her nose and makes every one of her symptoms worse, but even the brown of the deadest tree is better than the white of her mother's home. Even the white of the snow is better than the eggshell walls that make Lace feel as though she is trapped in an asylum. At least out here, there's sprawling green lawn and small white flowers peppered around, and blooming trees, bits of sky bursting through the branches. And of course, there's the pigeon. Sometimes Lace goes out for the pigeon alone. It mostly sits in the pruned, curated trees that are evenly spread around the property. No matter how much Lace calls, it does not come. It just watches her, as if waiting for something. It annoys Lace. After a few days, she goes to the kitchens. "Can I have some peanuts?" Lace asks the cook. The woman gives Lace an annoyed look, but shakes a few nuts onto a resealable plastic bag and hands Lace the lot. Lace tucks it into her pocket and wheels herself towards the back door, a set of two glass-paneled panes that let in watery sunlight during the morning hours. Almost the instant her wheelchair manages to bump over the small metal ledge, the pigeon comes swooping down from the rooftop. It lands on the top of Lace's knee, tiny claws creasing the fabric of her skirt like it can smell the peanuts bagged up in Lace's pocket. The pigeon coos once, fluttering and fluffing its wings. It watches her with watery black eyes, liquid green and full of trust, chirping and hopping about, balancing on one leg and then the other. It's not as energetic as it usually is. It looks depressed, limp, but it's been a while since Phantom's come home. Lace carefully strokes the creature's head, as though as a downy pillow since before she could remember. It tries to nudge the inside of her wrist before it hops onto her shoulders, wings all aflutter. "Stupid thing," Lace says. She pulls her knees up under her chin, tucking them beside her throat. "You're ugly. I never liked you, and you never liked me." It's so useless. It's so helpless. No one ever stays, and no one ever cares. The pigeon sings its song and flutters its wings, no more than street vermin. It's just a pigeon, but it's all she has left. It sniffs the air once, before cooing lowly once more. Its bones are stark and delicate under its thin coat. With her other hand, Lace reaches into her pocket. There's a little piece of candy, wrapped in a glittering white foil. The sweet she had been given by the doctor. She'd forgotten about it. The pigeon tries to snatch it out of her hand. "You can't have this," Lace sighs, "because you'll get sick." But the pigeon's already sick. It's sad. It's sick. It sits on those branches, silent as death, day in and day out. Up close, Lace can see the dullness of its feathers. More so than usual. She can see the intelligence in its eyes. It resents the fact that Lace is the one who is here and not Phantom. She knows it does. It'll forgive her in the face of something nice to eat. Easily digestible, easily swallowed. Bad after effects that linger on and on. Better to die before you face them. Take the good times and then disappear into nothing at all. Lace reaches deeper and pulls out some of the peanuts. She feeds them to the pigeon, one by one, sucking on the hard candy herself simultaneously. She watches it eat every bite, snatching each from her open palm and scarfing it down its glittering gullet. When there's no more, she smooths back the pigeon's feathers and hums tonelessly. The pigeon coos and chirps a few more times. It pecks her shoulder, as if asking for additional peanuts. Once it realizes Lace doesn't have anything else, it flies into the trees, moving from place to place, as if looking for something. Someone, maybe. For a moment it comes back, fluttering down and resting on Lace's shoulder. It nudges the inside of her ear, pushing her hair around with its beak, smoothing it down carefully, as if to apologize. Lace thinks about Phantom. He wouldn't like to be in a cage. He likes to fly around. Well then, how would it stay around? Lace thinks she knows the answer. The pigeon chirps once more, then every beat of its wing like a drum against her ear. It takes to the air, a common silhouette of a bird carving its place against the sky. Over the rolling brown fields and far away, it vanishes like a mirage in the distance, as if it was never there at all. Lace rests her cheek against her knees. She thinks in the wild the pigeon will get eaten by vultures or foxes, and then worms and fungi, each taking an appropriate chunk as per the role in the food chain. Each link only as important as the last, each unnoticeable unless you look, unless you care. Everything eats, and in turn everything is eaten. Each creature exists to be subsumed. But how is this fair if you change something to be defenseless against all of that? Shielding her eyes against the sky, Lace watches the sky for a moment. It remains still, as if the cold in the air has frozen the life around her as well. Clouds hang listlessly from the blue canvas. She sighs.